Yellowstone finale rules out one interesting story for Beth and Rip's Spinoff. The finale of Yellowstone Season 5, the for-now conclusion of Taylor Sheridan's neo-Western Dutton family, ruled out one promising story for Beth and Rip's spin-off show. Just days before Yellowstone ended, it was announced that Kelly Riley and Cole Hauser would reprise their roles as Beth and Rip, respectively, in their own spin-off featuring the Yellowstone moniker in the title. It was a promising development, though not exactly a surprise, since the actors had previously been in talks to head a potential Yellowstone Season 6 as the obvious choice to replace Kevin Costner and lead the series. Yellowstone Season 5 teased some big ideas for how Beth and Rip's saga could continue while detailing the fate of John Dutton Ayoy in flashbacks surrounding the events of his death. After Kevin Costner's Yellowstone exit ahead of Season 5, Part 2, the show set up its most important conclusions while filling in the timeline from Part 1. Ultimately, Case sold the Yellowstone Ranch to the Broken Rock tribe and resettled at East Camp with his family. In conjunction with Case's decision, Beth bought a ranch in Dillon, Montana, and moved in with Rip and her adopted son, Carter. Before the Yellowstone Season 5 finale, Sheridan teased a different continuation for Beth and Rip. Flashbacks throughout Season 5, Part 2, showed what happened before John Dutton's death, which opened the series. They relayed what happened to the Dutton children and the cowboys between Parts 1 and 2, balancing not wasting a single minute, explaining what would happen to John with filling in the timeline necessarily. Flashbacks honed in on the couple's potential future when Beth traveled to the Lone Star State to visit her husband and previewed how their lives could continue after Yellowstone. Following the best and brightest Dutton Ranch cowboys heading to Texas at the end of Yellowstone Season 5, Part 1, Beth visits Rip in Yellowstone Season 5, Episode 10. When kidnapping her husband from running the cattle operation and spending a few nights with him at a suite in Amarillo, Yellowstone teased the couple's move to the state, where they were perfectly placed in cattle country amid an absence of tourists. Beth and Rip were, at the time, bound by the ranch, but it was difficult not to imagine the lovebirds flocking further south after seeing them thrive there. The couple was still bound by the ranch when we saw Beth and Rip's flashback in Yellowstone Season 5, Episode 10. In the past, when the flashback occurred, Beth and Rip's loyalties were to John Dutton and protecting his legacy. In present-day Yellowstone Season 5, after John's death, the couple is all the more obligated to the ranch before Case decides to sell it. Therefore, Beth and Rip never formally discussed moving to Texas. When Case chose to sell the ranch to the Broken Rock tribe, Beth and Rip could live freely. Still, Beth chose something other than Texas. Despite Texas leaving a massive impression on Beth, she buys a ranch in Montana. Beth and Rip's ranch in Dillon will anchor the couple to their home state, which is fitting, even though the decision ignores Beth's desire to leave the state with her husband. Yellowstone shows Beth, Rip, and Carter settling into their new ranch, which comprises 7,000 acres of land, a little house, and a big barn as the flagship wraps up. The finale shows Beth's new reality, with her husband satisfyingly planting the seeds of her vision to ranch around 600 pairs of cattle. While it was neat to see Beth and Rip in Texas, their spinoff couldn't occur there. Taylor Sheridan has already teased a different spinoff of the Yellowstone flagship called 6666, which will appear at the Four Sixes Ranch in Texas, following Jimmy's decision to work for Travis permanently. With another Texas-themed Yellowstone spinoff pending, Beth and Rip's story couldn't go there. Having two Yellowstone spinoffs in Texas would completely shift the franchise's tone, making its fascination with Texas more of a staple than a novelty, which convoluted the show's association with the national park it borders in Montana in general. Still, Beth and Rip's Texas story paved the way for what came next. What Beth Dutton loved most about Texas was its isolation from tourist crowds, which she achieved when she bought land 40 minutes west of Dillon in an isolated part of Big Sky Country. While Beth's real estate decision ruled out an interesting story for the couple, it also built on the Dutton-Wheeler, Texas love story, the first time the couple hashed out a future beyond the ranch. Fortunately, how they handle their future and what comes next will play out in the Beth and Rip Yellowstone spinoff. The series finale of Yellowstone left fans reeling, with significant developments altering the trajectory of several beloved characters. Among these were Beth Dutton and Rip Wheeler, whose relationship has long been a cornerstone of the series. However, as the finale closed a major chapter for the Dutton family, it also ruled out one of the more intriguing possibilities for Beth and Rip's anticipated spinoff. A narrative focused on their shared quest to rebuild their lives away from Montana's stormy Yellowstone ranch. The finale's impact on Beth and Rip. In the final episodes, Beth and Rip's lives underwent seismic changes. Their steadfast bond endured through betrayal, loss, and conflict, culminating in a decision that set them apart from the chaos of the Dutton legacy. John Dutton, ever the patriarch, faced his ultimate reckoning, a culmination of enemies closing in and his inability to adapt to a modern world. The fallout forced Beth and Rip to confront whether their future could still be tied to a land soaked in blood and history. Rip's decision to leave Yellowstone Ranch for the Four Sixes Ranch in Texas, a sanctuary free from the violence of Montana, was a bittersweet moment. The finale solidified their relocation, suggesting a new chapter centered on survival and reinvention. However, this resolution effectively closes the door on a storyline many fans hoped for: Beth and Rip returning to Montana as saviors or reclaiming the ranch from those who would dismantle its legacy. The spinoff's direction. Taylor Sheridan's intricate storytelling has consistently prioritized character development over predictable narratives. Beth and Rip spinoff, set to explore their life at the Four Sixes, will likely delve into their adaptation to a new environment. It's a stark departure from the Montana mountains, with the sprawling Texas plains presenting challenges of a different kind. While the potential for thrilling drama remains, the finale's resolution removes the possibility of Beth and Rip reclaiming Yellowstone Ranch as a central plotline. Instead, their spin-off will focus on the dynamics of building something new, rather than salvaging the past. Beth, fiercely loyal yet deeply scarred, must navigate a world where power plays and manipulation are less viable. Rip, ever the grounding force, will find himself tested by the Four Sixes' demand for a different kind of leadership. Together, they'll face struggles that challenge their unbreakable bond in fresh ways. Why reclaiming Yellowstone Ranch was intriguing. For years, Yellowstone Ranch has been synonymous with power, legacy, and conflict. The prospect of Beth and Rip returning to Montana to fight for its survival, potentially against Jamie or even external forces, was a compelling idea. It would have allowed Beth to fulfill her vow to protect her family's legacy, while granting Rip the opportunity to solidify his place as more than a ranch hand. This storyline could have explored themes of redemption and reconciliation, particularly between Beth and Jamie. Though their animosity reached a fever pitch in the finale, a narrative in which Beth confronts her pain and works through the betrayal could have added emotional depth. Similarly, Rip's quiet wisdom could have guided them toward a fragile truce, all while battling external threats to the ranch. Challenges of a Texas-centered spinoff. By shifting the narrative to Texas, the spinoff faces unique challenges. The Four Sixes Ranch, while iconic in its own right, lacks the layered history and emotional weight of Yellowstone Ranch. The sprawling Texas landscape may provide breathtaking visuals, but it must also offer compelling stakes to match the intrigue of Montana's cutthroat politics and family drama. Beth's fiery temperament and ruthless business acumen may feel out of place in the quieter, more isolated setting of the Four Sixes. How will she channel her energy when corporate battles and family vendettas are no longer front and center? Rip, too, will face an adjustment. His quiet strength has always thrived amid chaos, but the relative stability of the Four Sixes may test his adaptability in unexpected ways. The spin-off success will hinge on Sheridan's ability to create stakes that resonate as deeply as the battle for Yellowstone Ranch. Whether it's conflicts with local rivals, internal struggles within the Four Sixes, or personal demons that resurface in a new setting, the spin-off must carve out its own identity while staying true to the essence of Beth and Rip. Opportunities for growth. Despite these challenges, relocating to Texas offers opportunities for Beth and Rip to grow as characters. Away from the shadow of John Dutton and the ghosts of Montana, they have the chance to redefine themselves. The Four Sixes operations may test Beth's ingenuity in ways she's never experienced, pushing her toward a new kind of self-discovery.